Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of, yes, Hearts of Iron. So let's continue this. Oh, I'm doing a paradrop here too, because they're just seeming to take forever. They'll be there on the 3rd, which is today, but they're not there yet in an hour, and now they're there, and now we also will have many more units that are somehow being attacked successfully by this garrison unit. I don't get why that was happening, but okay, they lost the battleship Lion out here. Very good, very good. We are denying them bases after bases after bases. Okay, they're here, so these guys, well, these guys are going to there. I guess we'll move the headquarters here. We're sort of doing something of the same. Well, let's move the headquarters here and maybe here. These guys can come up this way. These guys can come a little more inland. We are moving supplies. Ah, the battleship Royal Sovereign also went down out there too. Good. Very good. Like I say, we got supplies coming in here through through the 2 ports that we own, so that should be happening. Getting supplies. Okay, they've stopped their attack. So now, counterattack with those guys. Since these guys are sort of beat up, they get to hike around here. And now they're done with their, and they might as well join the attack too. Just hit them from multiple provinces. And we've gotten rid of a destroyer too. Also very good. Now we moved these here, Guadalcanal, so the Guadalcanal can invade there. Group. Not that, you know, ooh, more action. These islands in and of themselves are overly valuable. Very good. 3 destroyers down. 4. Looks like no real damage. They're not so much valuable in and of themselves as in that they give resources or ICs or manpower or whatever. What they are positions. Positions to base from, either aircrafts or ships. And from those positions they can invade. Another destroyer down, good. They can invade other places. that's what they can do. Okay, sniper warfare has advanced. Very good. Let's check and see our current place. Okay, yeah, we can continue now. What does Germany want? We would give them money in exchange for metal. No, we don't really need metal. And we're not getting it from you with a very bad supply line. Okay, well now that you have some supply, you can get moving again. I'm waiting for a bunch. Well, those are for a long time from now. Wow, I mean, that's... Wow, those are our first garrison units that aren't... Well... Okay, I should have put a few more military police. I'm also using these guys here as garrisoning forces, the staffs. Don't have much suppression except for this guy who has, it's not really Hirohito, it's just a generic base. Suppression of 8 here, so the rest, yeah, anti-aircraft and artillery, but it's anti-aircraft and artillery sitting there. Those should be sent. Okay, well, I think we need another headquarters out there, and yeah, we could do that. This is probably the better place. Yeah. No rebase. It's a bit of a risky move, obviously, no escorts. But we'll use the Air Force One as an additional garrisoning element. It doesn't have a political staff, so it's not very suppressive, but it's still just, you know, some more troops. I still plan, hope, think that we're going to have more proper, and I like the tropical island garrisons, but any garrison forces, you know, garrison units would be useful. Those I'm hoping to put in there as well, but these other command things are just a little bit more, is just sort of the way it is. Okay, Operation Torch, which we all know what Operation Torch was, I presume, was the Allied landings in North Africa. This is the regional generic, not the double beefy one that I created for my last German playthrough, just because I knew it would be way too weak and wouldn't do any good. And it wasn't just, oh, I'm such a superior player, and it wasn't even I need a tougher challenge. It was more like, well, you know, if they were planning an invasion, they would have known that I had some troops being ready to do it, so they'd come heavier and harder. So I was just sort of playing against myself. Because that's in essence, to some degree, what some of the mod makers are doing. And especially Revolver Held's GGA with his scripted invasions in the version that I don't think, well, there's a couple versions. One version may have some of them in it, I think. Scripted invasions into Europe as he's playing against you. You know, it's in a scripted fashion, but that's what he's doing. And I really don't have scripted invasions for TRE because it's just not within the main realm of what I want to do for the mod. Not that it's a bad idea. I think scripted invasions, I've come to believe, because of course we've all seen how bad the AI is in both games. But even if we had a relatively good AI, just the idea of, oh hey, you know, Operation Torch, gonna happen. Now, and like I'm saying is, they're good if, and here's the if the condition elements of the scripting are good, meaning Vichy is either neutral or in the Axis. It and controls these territories, and Britain is controlled, and you go in, and if you describe the world that was in fact, like when Torch happened, Britain and their allied control the Western Desert, do we call this Italian Eastern Front, the Western Desert, whatever, is sort of like it was historically. Now, obviously, for Torch, they were at El Alamein at the time or something. I believe it was right about there when the Torch went down. But so long as, this is sort of going on in a somewhat historical manner, and it's not just, needs to be exactly historical. No, it's just, you don't have a Torch invasion scripted when you have all of North Africa controlled by the Allies and Britain, controlling the southern half of Italy or something, to then throw in this what, where kind of thing doesn't make sense. So it has to make a reasonable sense. And the one area that, does the Allies control Gibraltar? And is Spain neutral or not? To then have, sort of greater Torch in that, comes into this part here, where, or do you script a Torch that is, other Torch, or whatever you want to call it? Obviously, they would have come up with a different name, but we just use the historical ones as a shortcut. That would be a heavy Moroccan, and maybe a Spanish Moroccan, and maybe a Tenerife type invasion force to move in, and if Spain is in the Axis, whether it's at war or not, and deciding to hit here to clear this out to push in. You can script all these possibilities in, and if you do it well, it works well. It really does, in my opinion. But you have to have a lot of contingency stuff going on. Focus everything back to production, and of course airborne engineers upgrade. So that is here, and it's grayed out, so we will move that over to there. Oh, start research, there we go. Okay, you guys are all back at base. You come in and occupy that. It'll probably take forever. You can go for a walk. There we go. What is it that we're attacking? Anything still there? Okay, so do we not have supplies coming in? Well, let's look at the... No, we don't. We need supplies into Guadalcanal. We'll just go out of Tokyo to Guadalcanal. Okay, I think we're going to need to move in a couple of these other good divisions to really push appropriately here, because I see some American forces and whatnot. We'll take it. Now, I'm back up here. Oh, looks like we bombed them out. Okay, you guys attack into here. They were not doing well before. Okay, ground attack. Okay, good. We got more divisions here. We have another HQ coming to help. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah. I think you probably get that. But once you get up there, you can support the attack. Yeah, that was sort of maybe for... Yeah, I think you'll fit there. Okay, make a dash back to Singapore. Hopefully safely. And 2 more destroyer groups down. Very good. Okay, so let's look at the terrain here. Okay, everything's mountains. You guys come up to here. You can support that. Attack into the mountains. You're not the best for that, but add a little bit of armor and just another flank. That seems to turn the trick. And sheer punk doctrine. Okay, just, you know, again, I know I'm talking to a lot of people. Some know more than I do. But, I know I'm also talking to, people new to all this. I don't want to, you know, could newbies or noobs, or could just be, you know, but youthful people often that, you know, don't maybe have the deep concept. And let's see if I can put down the idea of the sheer plunk. It's a German word. Sheer is, I think, is it heavy or something like that? Gross is big. Or schwer. Yeah, Schwerpunkt, like heavy tanks. So I think it's like heavy something. I don't know, but what the word basically means is sort of determining the point of decision in the battle that you're having with the enemy. The Schwerpunkt, the whatever. And the idea, you know, like if you've got 3 battalions and you're going to attack the enemy, you know, all straight in front of you with those 3 battalions spread out, there's no Schwerpunkt, no Schwerpunkt. It's just everybody's going. Now, if you've got 3 battalions of heavy tanks going against some cavalry, guys with, well, they may have rifles and even machine guns, but they're riding horses. And it probably doesn't really matter because your heavy tanks will probably just roll over them. But if there are roughly an equal 3 battalions sitting in front of you, with, you know, everything being roughly equal, you're just going to have a, you know, a meat grinder fight. The defensive, generally speaking, now of course you can have, you know, people often, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, depends on who and what. You know, attackers to defenders to successfully take out defenders. But we can see, including like the attack into Italy, or I mean the attack in the Italian attack into you know, Egypt sort of came, and then they sort of moved in. Maybe it was Sidi Barrani or somewhere around here, and sort of stopped, and then sort of like had this real sort of complex of, you know, bunkers, as in, you know, sandbags and sand and, you know, a bit of timber or something they brought, not like, you know, concrete stuff, but just, you know, field sort of fortifications. And so they were sort of on the defensive. You know, they weren't moving. And the British, just with a much smaller and theoretically weaker force, just hits this much larger formation. I think a lot of it was maybe done at night, if I remember. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of this wrong. But hits them and just rolls up this big formation and captures most of it. I mean, they kill people, but most of it's just capture. And they just capture the, you know, just everybody, and just the rear area troops, just everybody. Huge, massive defeat very early on. You know, this is Italy's first invasion into Egypt, you know, during World War II, and just takes out this larger force. And they do, you know, and they have very, very few casualties, the British. The British just roll over them. And, you know, we've talked in the previous, or in the Italian series, about how bad the Breda machine gun was. And, you know, there are some technical problems that the Italians have, and the Italian leadership isn't very good. But it wasn't that these British soldiers were some sort of, you know, the myths that we heard. You watch World War II era movies, especially Erich von Stroheim, and who starred as Rommel, and Franchette Tone, who starred as a British officer trapped behind the lines, and Five Keys to Cairo, I think it was called, or something like that. You know, sort of the elites. The Afrika Korps is some sort of elite German formation that's sent down to fight the Allies. When in fact that they were just sort of like, hey, you guys, you're not doing anything. Yeah, you're sort of garrison. You go. Oh, that battalion over there. Yeah, you go. Yeah. Those supply troops there, they go. Oh, these guys in the convalescent. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, just scraping together. That's why some of the units that were formed were provisional divisions and whatnot. Now there were some proper divisions, but they weren't like, ooh, these were elite divisions. Now, sort of from the earliest days, they were sort of desertized in that they had pith helmets, which really weren't that good of, you know, keeping one's head cool, and they had funky lace-up boots that really weren't all that suitable, and they, you know, some stuff that what you might think in Germany you want in the desert, but if you've been out there, you don't necessarily want. But, you know, and tan uniforms, and so, you know, they were doing some of the stuff right, you know, and that they were sort of somewhat prepared in going down there, but it wasn't this elite force. And, you know, if you look at the desert rats, the you know, the various British units here, what they become fighting the Germans and the Italians, they're not that yet. Now, some of these division units may be the same people that become the desert rats, you know, and withstand the multiple sieges in Tobruk and whatnot, and really become an elite force out of experience. They weren't that at all. They were just some sort of, you know, British forces that were in Egypt as, you know, sort of occupational defense forces, Western Desert Patrol type units, and a bunch of them driving around in Rolls-Royce armored cars, if you know what that is. I mean, they're not like fancy when you say Rolls-Royce. They're fancy engines in them because they're made by the Rolls-Royce company, but they're the World War I armored car and whatnot, which they're not bad, but they're not World War II standard anything. They're you know much less. And so this sort of, you know, cheap ass force that was set up to maintain order and fight Bedouin, you know, raiders and whatnot, you know, that's what hits this much larger Italian army and just takes it out. So you can have the idea of the defending troops, because they're on the defensive, you're ceding the initiative to the other side. So that can be a benefit, but it can, like we say, it can also, if they're prepared and set up, it can be costly. But let's sort of take it as two sort of units that are moving, you know, that are equally dug in or equally sort of moving to engage. If they're evenly all spread out, they're just going to sort of battle each other. And yeah, one side may win, you know, gets better dice rolls than the other side, as it were. But that isn't a good way to do it. It's to find the sort of the Schurplunk, to find the point in which to apply pressure at the enemy. And so you take, say, one battalion, and you concentrate its force into sort of one spot, sort of like facing one enemy company. And you spread the other two ones out, just sort of like, you know, hey, go out there and, you know, make noise, you know, shoot at the enemy, you know, actually try to hit a few of them. You know, yeah, don't take too many casualties, you know, so don't press too hard. But just sort of hold and engage the enemy while this other battalion, in a concentrated point, trying to find a, you know, if we were on a pool table flatness, that you can all, you know, everybody can get out there with binoculars and just look around there. This isn't necessarily going to work well, because as you concentrate one battalion at that point, the enemy just moves one or more battalions in front of it. But let's say that it's even, you know, rolling sand dunes and whatnot. You know, it doesn't have to be some mountain pass that's the one point that you can get through. It's just sort of using terrain and position to find that place that you can apply pressure, concentrate it, and hit through there and do it. That's sort of what the Schurplunk is. Just as the idea of it is, where the weight of the battle, the weight of gravity in there, that you can find that and apply pressure. Now, there are several ways to do this stuff, and I'm just sort of on the various tactical, operational, and strategical thoughts that I've ever read in my head, or sort of, you know, mushed together. And so let's say you were attacking at 3 points on the enemy's element, you know, the enemy, and you have a reserve that's equal to the three that are attacking. There's two basic thoughts that you often will do is, as they attack, which one is having the hardest time attacking? Send the reinforcements there to reinforce that attack so it can win. Okay, that's one sort of thought. The other thought is, find the one of the 3 points that's having the easiest time attacking, and that is where you send the reinforcements. Why? Because you're hitting them where they ain't, to use a American Civil War maxim, and you hit them there, you burst through the line, and they start collapsing, because once that starts collapsing, other things collapse. And who cares, not that you don't care anything about the other two attacks, but who cares if the attacks are successful in, you know, dislodging the enemy, like if you're crossing a river at 3 points or something like that. You sort of held up the enemy at those 2 points, and that they weren't able to go reinforce the one that succeeds. And because you're now across the river and you're now getting into their rear, they can no longer both hold that river and hold the flank open, you know, or, you know, keep troops along the flank and not be moved. So it doesn't matter really whether those other two river crossings work. You know, you don't want your troops slaughtered, but, you know, if you just get to some point, and you can't tell your troops the whole time that, oh, well, this doesn't matter, because you, at the start of it, you don't know, because you don't actually know how strong the enemy is in each of these places, whether that's strength as in numbers or quality of troops, you know, sometimes, you know, or quality of leadership. All that can, you know, affect actual strength. So you don't know for sure which one is going to happen, so that's why you have a reserve. And so you attack at all 3 of them, you try to, as a commander of all those attacks together, you try to read the battlefield well enough to realize which one, because if they're all because if you talk to two guys over the telephone and they may both say, we're having heavy artillery barraging us, okay, but each of the guys doesn't know what the other guy's artillery is, levels of being barraged at, because they're far enough apart. We're presuming having to, communicate over the telephone because you can't see. And the experience level of the people talking to the upper higher level commands, sometimes you can just have this artillery that's not really hitting your position, but man, it's around and it's sort of like scary, and you want to all stay in trenches because, hey, you go out there, you could get killed. And the other guys are being just pounded with artillery that's direct, maybe same number of rounds coming in at both things. The other one is artillery is hitting on the positions. They've identified where you are and are laying down artillery right there, and you can't even sort of hardly stick your head up without shrapnel going through it. One is, hey, there's artillery falling around us somewhere. The other is it's intensive right on us. Those are two different conditions. And if you're getting the exact same report as the guy in, the command center back there, how do you judge? If you say, hold the telephone up and let me listen to it, it may sound the same, But, so now if you have long-term service, and, well, was it like, are you getting artillery like at the battle of this or the battle of that? And if you know that the guy was at those two battles, oh, it's like the battle at, Battle X instead of Battle Y, and the other guy says, no, it's like Y instead of X or whatever. And so which is really getting the heavy pounding. That makes your decision. So when you're both attacking, or when all three are attacking across the river, and you're getting feedback from them, which ones are doing well? Now, maybe one of them say, oh, we're across the river and we're moving a mile into the enemy territory. Well, you figured that one out. That's easy. But sometimes it's not that easy. And so you've got to sort of be able to read your commanders, move around the battlefield, understand what's going on. That's sort of all which comes into this whole doctrine advance and figuring this whole thing out. And so if you can figure out what's going on as a commander, realize where to move your reserve to follow through on the attack, determine where that Schurpunkt is, because you can't really, unless you're purely orchestrating it out as a pre-planned thing, sort of like the idea of the Soviet offensive that was, Warsaw Pact offensive that was developed into NATO. It was a big orchestrated thing that, they updated and changed it over the years, but, they were going to, send masses of corps of armored troops in certain areas. So they knew where the Schurpunkt was going to be just because that's where they were going to send all the armored troops. And so you can create that in the beginning, but unless you sort of have that, it's sort of reading the field, seeing what's going on, and then determining it. And so it's sort of a skill. So reckless assault and masterful blitz are increased by that. Now, that was a long time, and I could have just said Schurpunkt advance, but I decided, yeah, we can sort of look at that and see what that means and what the idea is. This is what comes down to, yes, as being an ROTC, I was called in the college curriculum military science, and when I was in naval ROTC, it was naval science or whatever. Yeah, it ain't a science; it's an art. It's an art, and you can have formula. Medium armored designs will do that. You can have formula, but the art form, and even if you decide to sort of have a certain level of rigidity in your doctrines, the art form is to be able to read that battlefield, to be able to understand what's going on in the moment. And that is one of the reasons why I want to, and I know I don't think I have any generals or colonels watching my channel, but I do know that there are a few of you out there who definitely have served in places like Afghanistan and Iraq and both, and so you have more combat experience really than I do at all. But and I want to specify armchair generals because it's sort of the theory. I do probably I think of myself better than I am, but well, we have more ICs. Think I'm better than I am, but I do know that it is, shall we say, of an armchair quality in that it's theories. I maybe wrongly, but I think I could defeat a general playing war games. You know, on the war games front, I feel confident that there could be a general on the other side, whether it's the tabletop or Hearts of Iron or mentioning that we are doing. If you're watching this, sort of when it's released, we are doing this Saturday another multiplayer thing. For Hearts of Iron 4, Black Ice. Love to have you show up. It's just fun to watch. Even, you know, I know a bunch of you who watch this aren't into Black Ice at all. That's cool, or aren't into Hearts of Iron 4 at all. But still, it's sort of fun to watch the multiplayer aspect of this. I think we just need more destroyers. Not that we don't need more carriers, but I think we need more destroyers. And oh no, wrong thing. I think we need more carrier. Oh no, what we also need is more of those garrison troops. Yeah. But I think, and again, I might be entirely wrong, and you know, if I were to face against a you know, a real proper general playing this game, I'm not saying that I'm sure that I would win, because I'm obviously used on this game, used to playing against the AI. But I think I'm reasonably well equipped to handle it, just because, hey, you're a general or a colonel or a major or something like that. I sort of kind of think, again, I'm not saying I'm going to defeat whoever it is or anything like that, but I think I could play against them, you know, in a competent manner. But that doesn't mean I'm competent to read a real battlefield and get the real battlefield conditions, and I'm competent to, you know, lead real troops, because a lot of people mistake, and I see this more in my personal life and throughout my different life, is managers. There's some that are good that are managing paperwork, and they sort of manage that paperwork well, but they really suck at managing people. They really suck at managing people. And and the only way that they sort of get at it is because they're given authority by somebody else in the company, and the people that they're managing need the job, and so they can't just go, this sucks, I'm out. But more than a few times I've known managers that were really sucky, and you can stop attacking, and you can stop attacking, and you're going to start attacking. Keep the pressure up, but swap out the units in the front line. And so, you know, that they're just, you know, people skills are bad. Not that they're some super genius at doing the sort of paperwork, inventory management type things, and making sure that, oh yeah, all of the widgets are showing up all at the right time, and we got enough widgets to sell, and you know, and whatnot. Yeah, but you have no leadership skills and no ability to effectively handle people. That I've seen that more than a few times. Okay. Let's grab. We're gonna rebase here, hopefully quickly enough, and get supplies and rebase up there, and then we're gonna see about. Oh, yeah, that's sort of what I was actually just worried about here. Okay, up here. Okay, get on board the boat. Do I want any of the other units? Sure. We should reorganize this. I may do it someday. They keep threatening to reorganize, and just, quite honestly, just haven't taken the time to do it. So, and then you have that are, you know, people that are, we're also going to grab you and send you over here, because I'm just sort of a little worried about speed. Rebase. So, you know, I'm picturing 3 or 4 different people that I've worked for, worked around. In some cases, that they weren't my boss, but they were a boss in a company that I worked with. It's just, man, yeah, they had some skills, but they weren't people skills. And yeah, not good. And so, but to be a proper military commander, you've got to have people skills, because you've got to convince people to do, would it be stupid things? Would that be appropriate? Anybody who served in the military, convince them to do stupid things like run out in front of people shooting at you, you know, because it's the right. I'm not saying it's a dumb thing to do from a military perspective, because, you know, if you're pinned down and and sort of like out in the open or very little cover, and people are shooting at you, and if you stay there, they're going to eventually get all of you, because you're not in, you know, it's more just their bad marksmanship and you're sort of small target laying down. But if you get up and run your squad, your platoon, your whatever to good cover, you may or maybe will lose 1 person, say, but you'll lose 5 if you stay. So it's better to lose 1 if you move than, you know, stay. But, you know, it's just sort of, you know, so again, it's not like being a bad leader in doing the wrong thing, but the idea of, or assaulting the enemy, because that's another drill that I was trained. I have, like I say, gone through military training. It's different than going to war. Some of the, you know, counter ambush drills that I was trained in are to, oh, you're being ambushed, rush the direction, you know, assault the direction that you're being shot from, instead of trying to get out of, well, you're trying to get out of the kill zone, but instead of retreating or falling back out of the kill zone, because it all depends on the commander who's deciding this stuff, or drilling it into its, you know, if the sort of shortest distance is going into the enemy's position, you rush their position. And so, you know, trying to convince them to do sort of stupid seemingly things, more or less for the own good to some degree, of the overall group at least. And so you have to be a inspiring enough leader that the people around you would go, yeah, I'm going to follow what sergeant or lieutenant or whatever says to go do, or is doing. I'm going to follow him because he's convinced me over his leadership time to do so. That is, as opposed to, because we can go back to what's the Clint Eastwood movie? Oh man, something Ridge. Where, you know, he's playing the Marine and they invade Grenada, and the battalion commander is like a supply commander, and who has no people skills and bad. I'm sorry, I'm blanking, because he's Gunny Highway. I am remembering, but the actual name of the movie, and it's been a while since I've seen it, but I know you guys already know what, half of you at least know what the movie I'm referring to is. But so, you know, you can have somebody who's good in a military setting, but who is good at organizing things and making sure things go well. Now, they may not be entirely, you know, incompetent at dealing with people, but they're not the military leadership of, you know, appropriate kind of stuff. And so, yeah, you can, you know, do that. And I'm not at all claiming that I have those skills. I might, but I have not been trained to do it, not had the experience of doing it, so I don't claim it. So that's why, again, I want to stick as armchair general. Tank radios will do that. And so I think I'm good, but hey. Okay, we're going to end this episode here because I'm making it just a few hours before it goes, or should be going live. Just sort of got busy yesterday, today. So yeah, we'll get this out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking the videos if you made it this far. And also if you made it this far and you haven't already, please subscribe. And of course, love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.